Ron Slay joins us. He's with 104.5 The Zone, and he is the man out of Nashville. You can listen to him with Brent Doherty each and every weekday in the afternoons in Nashville. Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm good. You can't forget about Don Davenport. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Come on, Hook.
Don's awesome. Don's awesome.
Nah, yeah.
I've known
See, I
Brent.
did. See, Amanda? See what we got to
I
deal
see
with?
it.
I see, man.
I know.
It's rough out here, man. These hooker streets.
I'm part of the problem all of a sudden. All right, Ron. Until Don, I said hello. Ron, I want to talk some hoops first, but hoops in a minute. But first, let me get your thoughts on Tennessee and the college football playoff and being behind Alabama. I'll just go ahead and tell you, it doesn't make sense to me. Just kind of, what do you think?
Yeah, it don't make sense to me either. I think there's so many different avenues that you go down with this, man. And I think that's the most difficult part. If you could have something concrete that you say, hey, this is the criteria. Don't start tailoring the criteria to help you, put a team in a different place or to soothe a different fan base or whatever it may be. That's why we got to this point. We were supposed to be able to take the element out of it of computers computing, and then finally get to this and get the human aspect of it. And now this is a problem because, it's wavering so much. If you take teams that go head to head, that's the part for me that I don't understand. And then you get a lot of fan bases, especially Alabama, saying that, the South Carolina loss was a bad loss. And it was, without question. That was a really bad loss and a black eye on it. But my whole thing is, if you're going to take credit and discount something for a loss against South Carolina, then you have to give credit and take account for the blowout against LSU. You know what I'm saying? When you they're using it, saying Alabama they lost by 2 against LSU, and then they lost by 3 against. Well, okay, if that's the case, then and you're going to use the South Carolina loss against it, and you're using head to head, then Tennessee blew out LSU at home. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't never a game from start to finish. So you saying they won and by 2 points, you're giving LSU credit and making Alabama seem like, man, that was a tough game. Well, it wasn't for Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? So you look at it and the South Carolina aspect of it, yes, a bad loss. I totally understand. And another thing I don't understand also is the element of bringing in, when you lose a guy like Hendon Hooker, like you brought up last week, which I think was a great comparison with the NCAA tournament and what I had to go through with Tennessee, and we losing John Higgins. But in this facet, you got Joe Milton stepping in and people saying, you don't know how good he's going to be. Well, they wouldn't pitch the shutout, and they put up 50-plus points. So if you're going off what they're saying, this team right here, as constructed right now, that's all you got to go on. You ain't got no expectations of Joe can't hit the mark on the long balls like Hendon can. All you can go off of is they went and pitched a shutout against a team that beat the top 25 team in Kentucky on the road and a team in Florida that had good expectations, wasn't supposed to lose. So I just don't know, man. It's too much gray area. If you can just make it concrete and we can stick with that, I think it'll be a much more of an understanding. And then, like, you're always going to have people that's going to be unhappy, but you can't have it where you're able to tailor, and that's what I feel is going on. You're able to tailor these votes and everything for what team is in front. And if it was Tennessee at 8th or 9th and Alabama at 6th, I don't think we have a discussion. But would it be 6 and 7, one behind? I think that's where it falls. And you're like, come on, dog, this don't even make sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Amanda, you want to jump in there?
I don't. I mean, I think the playoff committee needs to. They have the criteria, but we know that they don't follow it.
Right.
Because like one of the committee chairs came out and said, well, Alabama's this because they lost so close and it could have been determined one way or the other, whereas Tennessee got blown out.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting blown out by it's very clear that the committee values close losses over blowout losses. And that's not in the criteria. I mean, that's not in it at all. But we see that they're making judgment calls based on that. So if this is the problem with having a human element in it and not having like the BCS, where it's just mathematical. if you're having that human element, there's always going to be that room. So either it's like the Heisman, either take out if the character doesn't matter, take the character out of the creed, which they did. They ended up doing, or have it and make it matter. With the college football playoff committee, if you have these criteria and these rules, then they need to matter. If they don't matter, then take them away.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that I think you put it plain and simple, and I think we can go round and round all day long with how it's not right, But I think this is speaking from a place of not even just being a Tennessee fan, but just having something to go on,
having common sense.
Yeah, what are we doing here? I think we got to get past this point at some, and I think the easiest way is to take it to 8 teams or 10 teams or 12 teams or whatever the playoff picture will look like, and then with the parity in college football, and then you kind of put that out of the way and you let the players and the teams kind of handle for themselves and dictate where they're going to end up during the playoff.
Ron's appearance brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock. Zach's got your back, the best personal injury attorney in Chattanooga, period. End of discussion. Ron, let me turn to this in a weird sort of way. So the SEC championship game basically has no meaning, and then I want to get strictly to basketball. So the SEC championship game has basically no meaning because if Georgia loses, they're still going to get in. LSU can win, and they're not going to get in because they've got 3 losses. So, Ron, you've been in a similar situation. You've gone to the SEC conference playoff, the postseason, and not the NCAA tournament, but the postseason tournament for the SEC. You've been to the SEC tournament when you kind of knew or had a rough idea where you were going to be. How challenging is that to get motivated when you know you're in already?
Yeah, it's challenging a little bit. I think location was the biggest thing for us. What drove us when we were in the SEC tournament my sophomore year was we played in Nashville. So it was kind of easy to get up for, that year compared to, even though Atlanta is just down the street, the playing in the Georgia Dome at that time it's just so big, and it's, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like to me, it didn't feel like a basketball game. Even with playing in Syracuse, when they cut it in half, it still felt it felt like a big stadium, big arena, but at the same time, it was cut in half, and you could feel like a basketball feel in there. Then they had rich and tradition. Atlanta playing in the Georgia Dome, man, that wasn't nothing, man. I was cool with that. When they put us in Bridgestone, it felt like basketball. It felt more like NBA style, and we got up for it. We got up for that. Then, so you got to find little things to kind of motivate you, and that's how we were, man. We were like, man, okay, if we do lose, because not like we weren't trying to win, but if we do lose, man, we're gonna be all right. Like, we ain't playing for our life in this, South Carolina beat us, Ole Miss beat us. All right, cool. We'll see y'all. Our idea was, let's see you in the NCAA tournament where it really matter at, and we're gonna spank you. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way we kind of felt. But I don't know, man.
By the way, why were you dancing on? Was it Instagram recently that you were dancing?
Yeah. I was actually just being cool that day, and a Vandy fan went on social media and hit me and said, you guys should know. You should know how to act when you get a win. And this is only when I was tweeting. I was like, man, great job. Great season. Vanderbilt, great season. Like, I'm being cordial, and everything. And they went and wrote that. And so I said, you know what? It seems like you're asking for me not to know how to act. So I'm going to go and not know how to act. So I went and put on the song Candy, which is a song I love. And this is, hey, I just played it up for everybody. And that's how I really felt, I'll always play that. And that's a part of it. So if you just leave me alone, don't poke the bear, everything will be all right.
All right, let's talk about poking the bear. The ball's in action tonight. Do you know anything about McNeese State, or do we need to know anything about McNeese State?
I think in matchups like this, man, you don't. You let the players do all the scouting reports, and they should figure it out. What you want to see as a fan and really as a coach is how you go out and you dictate the game. You know what I'm saying? Like you going in, and yes, transfer portal has made it a lot of parity in college basketball, but you're the more inferior opponent. Like you are the big dog in this matchup. So you go out and set the tone, make them play to your pace. You dictate the game, you dictate the pace, the physicality of it, everything, you know. So if you go out there and get the sleepwalking, then you could be in trouble anytime. And that's what you don't want to go back to the film session and watch. You know, you're getting ahead with this, what is, I think, a 3-game homestand before you get ready to go play up Maryland and Arizona. So you want to get some things sharpened up, coming off a good win, good tournament in the battle for Atlantis. So you want to build on that, you know, with team chemistry, guys playing in different positions, different roles. You want all of that to take place right now and just keep building. Tyreek Key, you really want him to be able to find out what's his role. You know, I think coming into the season, you looked at him and he was like, man, Key can score. Well, if that's the case, Tyreek Key, score. Like, you help us when you score. You don't help us when you pump fake, dribble, pass. We don't need none of that. We need you to space the floor, knock them shots down like Santi does. You have those guys being able to spread the floor and where you can throw the ball into the post of the Euros and Olivier and guys like that, and have them be able to go one-on-one. And then when they collapse, kick it out. You kick it out to a guy like Zakai. You ain't got an open shot. We want you to penetrate. And you create for another guy. So I think it's just familiarity with the roles and things like that. If Josiah comes back and play, keep getting him acclimated, which I think he's doing a great job of coming in, and they're taking caution with him with this knee injury because you need him in conference play, not necessarily in this play. You don't want to rush that back. So I think it's just about getting the chemistry and everybody, you know, defining their roles.
If you have a question for Ron, you can get on board now, get on the message board and post, and we'll pass it along to Ron. What did you think of Santi last week, by the way? He had a pretty good time there in Atlantis, right?
Man, Santi, man. I mean, this young man, I don't know if when he rolls out of the bed, does he pick up a lighter and like kind of light his forearms and what, you know what I mean, to make sure his flamethrower is activated. But boy, when he gets going, man. And that's why when you got a guy playing that well from the perimeter, being able to shoot and space the floor that way and you're not able to leave them. You need other guys like Tyreek Key. You know, that's why it's so important for him to be able to counter him and be able to have that other side of the floor where they can't help. So really, if it comes down to it, like in the Michigan game, they just took guys out of it and really made us play a 3-on-3 game. You know, in some cases 3-on-4 because we were going high pick and roll, and they were compacting the paint, giving the ball to the big man, and the big man Euros having to make a pass. They was leaving Zakai open. They were leaving Josiah open. All of this is because they couldn't leave Santi. And that's what Santi brings to the game. He brings a force, man, to be reckoned with. You give him an inch of daylight, and he's going to fire it, and it's going to be money. So I think, man, the leadership of him is growing. Him really understanding who he is, the impact he has on this team is great. And, man, we just got to get just a little bit more help. And I think you may have that too in a guy like Julian Phillips, which is strange for a guy like a freshman like that to be able to get the reins, which is, I think, doing another great job of inserting him and Josiah being out, kind of forcing Julian Phillips to grow up a little quicker than you would if Josiah was in there, because at least gets a little bit longer. You know what I mean? If Josiah's in there, then you make that one mistake like Julian Phillips, you pull you out the game, talk to you got to go back in. Now it's kind of like, hey, man, get it right, keep playing. Get it right, keep playing. So he's learning with experience and learning on the go, which is great for him. I think it's going to bode well for us.
Sam asked what you thought about Jonas to this point. What are your thoughts on Idu?
Love him. You can see him getting healthier, getting stronger. You looked at him last year, he still looked like a little bit of a deer. At times, it was like, man, what's wrong with his legs? Why his legs wobble when he run? You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, come on, man, get some strength. You know, but now you don't see that anymore. Running the floor gracefully, down there protecting, is able to make more than one jump. So when he goes up to block a shot, he's not coming down, having to get his balance, get strength, and go back up. He's like a pogo stick, boom, boom, bouncing, defending the rim, getting rebounds, getting tip ins, a lob threat the whole time. So I love Jonas to do it. I think that's That's the biggest thing, man. Or do what he brings to the game, and then being able to step out and shoot. That's a different aspect. And, not getting caught up in this is how I'm going to impact the game by being able to shoot this trailer three. The trailer three is a bonus for him. He's playing inside, and he knows he's in there to dunk, rebound, get putbacks and protect the paint, but also being able to step out. That's beautiful. Because so now you bring a different aspect where you can play 2 7-footers down there. You play Euros at the same time what they do, or you can mix it up with Olivier, or you throw your side in the mix. Like, you got some good things to work with if you're Barnes, man, because of the offseason work that they do is done. So I'm loving how he's coming along.
I'm going on left field just a little bit, and then Amanda's going to jump in here.
Well, who's gonna catch it when you go out there to left field?
I don't know. Probably nobody. But I'm going.
Look at Amanda. He always goes to left field. Nobody's out there.
Have you got any indication how much longer Rick Barnes wants to coach? Because the elusive national championship is out there. He is getting up there in age. I know the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any insight into that? Do you have any vibe?
No, I don't, man. I think something that pushes that along to make you make that decision earlier is when you lose connection with the generation of kid that you're recruiting. And that's why it always goes back to the staff with me. He's done a great job of putting a good young staff around him that can relate to these guys where he can kind of get checked if need to. Like, coach, man, you got to evolve a little bit. You can't keep coaching this type of way, or you got to change your thoughts on this or something like that. And he's been open to it. So I think as long as that's happening, and he has a good feel and relationship with these guys off the floor, then I think it'll all be good, and it can at least have, I say, about 7 to 8 more years. Like, I don't want to put a cap on it or anything like that, man. But it's at some point you got to hang up. But I don't know, man. He got a good relationship. That's the biggest thing, man. If you're still able to impact guys on the floor and growth and development, and then also as a human off the floor, I say keep going.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be in great shape, so he seems to just be rolling on. And we had a question on the message board about Meshack. What do you think about his play to this point?
Man, love Meshack. Man, the ability that he's brought to the game and being able to score this year, I think is a difference. A lot of times last year you couldn't keep him on the floor because he couldn't make that open three, or he was hesitant to take a pull up, or didn't understand on the offensive end if he doesn't have the ball. What do I do if I'm not screening? Like, he has better timing as far as going to the backboard for rebounds. Also knowing when to get back on defense if another guard is taking a shot, the defensive rotation, everything, man. You can tell a year of experience, and him really putting in work in the offseason has really helped. So I think his key was being able to put the ball in the hole. I think that's what limited him in this play last year. He came back and answered the bell for that.
Who are you most impressed with on this team so far this season?
Who am I impressed with? 2 people. Big Euros. Reason being, I thought kind of like Meshack, but just opposite because he's in the paint. He wasn't able to play because of stamina in some cases and not being able to be a threat to score on drop-off passes, or if we give you the ball in the post, being able to just make a little baby hook, left hand or right hand. I think that's really stretched his game out and able to really get time. So now you're not just looking like a big brute guy. Your physicality, you bring talking to the game and all that. Now you can really have an impact, outside of that part of the game. So I'm impressed by him and the other guy. Of course, Josiah, of course, Zakai, but Julian Phillips, man, the way he's come along, I was saying last week, like, he's impressed me because he has the opportunity to have an impact to me like a Vincent Yarbrough. Wow. And I say that, and I don't compare a lot of people to my guy Vince, man, because dude is special. He did a lot of stuff that didn't show up in the stat sheet. But when you talk about length, knowing your game from the outside, shooting the ball when it's given, inside, not settling for jumpers, but being able to penetrate, going and attacking the rim, defensively, he could really be a problem. And this was what we always used to stress about with Vince, like with your length and your athletic ability, you can be an all-SEC defender without question to go along with what you got going on offensive end. Vince was one of the only people that I've known that could steal the ball. If the ball is at the top of the key and you're denying a guy on the wing, you're taught to play with your inside hand as the hand that steals it. So if they go back door, you can just turn your head and go back door with them. Vince is the only person that could steal the ball with his hand going the opposite way. It is kind of hard for me. So if he was guarding, he's supposed to play with his left hand up, so to deny that pass. He was able to not play with his left hand up, and when they pass the ball, be able to steal it with his inside hand as his right hand and take it. That's so difficult to do because a fake and they go back door and that whole play is broken down. But Vince was able to recover just because of the skill and the length that he had. Like no one could do that. Only person I saw could do that was him. And Julian Phillips brings that kind of aspect to it. Hopefully he can keep honing in or keep building going into conference play and don't hit that conference wall. And if he does, it's only like 1 or 2 games and he can shake out of it and keep on building. So
that's a real thing. I mean, I've definitely seen that before. Josiah Jordan-James could come back this weekend, but we had a comment on the message board. How has his injury helped younger players, you think?
Yeah, I think it's giving them opportunities, and it's also giving them opportunities for Coach Barnes to be able to pull a guy like Sakai and be like, man, you're not starting anymore. Tariq Key put you in there, and Tariq doesn't get the opportunity to look over his shoulder and be like, hey, man, what should I do? What should I do? You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out on the fly. I think that's one thing Josiah brings. He brings that comfort and that security to guys that you're able to look over and be like, Joe, what I'm supposed to do? And he wrangle everybody in, or he just take the bull by the horns and he lead the group. So you got other guys stepping up. I think that's what the key was with this team last year. Everybody had a voice. Everybody was in a leadership role. But with guys you got helping out this year, Meshack, Zakai, you got Tariq Key, got all these guys coming in, and all of them are now figuring out that they got to have a voice and can't depend on anybody else to kind of pull them through. They got to go out and do it themselves. So when you add Josiah back to the core of this team, it plays differently. You go from 8 deep to 9 to 10 deep automatically because you get a 2-for-1 with Josiah being able to play inside and outside. So, and then you also saw Julian Phillips kind of get thrust into that role at the forward position with guys getting in foul trouble. So that's key. I don't think you get to see him at the 4th spot if Josiah is still playing. So, you know, all the maturation of these guys, man, with him being out is great.
Ron, great stuff, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Again, Ron's appearance brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock. Zach's got your back. And Ron, I think the spread's 33.5 tonight. Are you taking Tennessee minus 33.5?
I most definitely am. And I'm gonna tell you one thing, and I got this from the team. When we used to play, and we would play a team like this, a lesser talented team or a lower D1 team, we would come out and set the bar. And I would always say, hey, man, we're not letting this team score more than 20 points in the first half. So if everybody took on that mindset, like, I don't care what they do. I don't care how we play. If they can only score 20 points in 20 minutes, we got them. Regardless, we'll make a second half run. Everybody will be woken up and we'll get going. But if we can lock in defensively, so if this group can continue to do things like that, which we saw in the battle for Atlantis, then, hey, I'm taking the under and I'm taking them to cover.
Ron, you're awesome as always, buddy. We will talk to you soon. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, peace. Go Vols, baby.